Because people asked, Advance Wars 2 Nell. Her day-to-day abilities are completely unchanged from Advance Wars 1. Her luck modifier is 0 to 19 instead of 0 to 9, like most other COs. Lucky Star is also completely unchanged, except it only gives plus 10 to defense instead of also firepower, but her superpower is Lady Luck, which sets her luck rating up to plus 100, which means her units may randomly outright one-shot enemies, regardless of how much damage they would otherwise deal. Let's see it in action now.
I'm just getting started. Lady Luck.
Okay, that looks really cool. And it would have been even funnier if these Neo-Tanks were infantry, but it's kind of the same difference. Luck damage is reduced if your HP is lower, but yeah, that 6 HP Neo-Tank still one-shot a 7 HP Neo-Tank. That is the power of Lady Luck. It's unreliable, but it is hilarious when your infantry do this to Neo-Tanks, or Battlecopters. I'm going into Advance Wars 1 mode to test something here. Do you still get the nerfed version of Sturm in Versus mode? Question mark. Okay. Oh, but he does have minus firepower on everything. So yeah, you still get the nerfed version of Sturm here. He has plus 20% defense and minus 20% firepower in Versus mode. And if this is true, you might see a difference with his Meteor Strike as well. That's interesting. It hit an invisible tile to me because of Fog of War. That actually leads me to wanting to test something. Yeah! The Versus mode Sturm's Meteor Strike does 4 damage instead of 8.
Meteor Strike.
No, it still hits a space in fog. Okay. I remember in the original, I've heard that Sturm's Meteor had to be centered on a unit that he could see, so the Meteor would have always hit there, but it seems like in the remake, yeah, it hit the same place it did in Advance Wars 1 mode. Well, that's good to know. Welcome back to Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp for the finale, where I demonstrate the brokenness that is Hachi. I was hoping I'd get the Advance Wars 2 theme here. Firstly, though, there are a couple of things I want to go over, and the first is a bit of an Easter egg in Design Room that I only found out recently. So, look carefully at the icon for the map on the Design Maps menu option. This is actually a recreation of Chapter 1 from the first Fire Emblem game. So yeah, nice reference to another Intelligent Systems property there. And before anything else, I want to show off the character select screen quotes for those we never got to select in the campaign.
Excellent choice. Move out. Good luck.
Genome file activated. I am Andy. Booting sequence S.
Come at me. Uh-huh. Russian time.
Smart move. Ooh, let's play. Tee-hee.
Ready to rock. Prepare yourself. Ah, yes. Very well.
And we'll be showing the final two in here. Oh yes, I've made a heck of a lot of money. So, firstly I want to buy extra pieces for the map editor. I found out that you can actually choose which tiles the volcano hits if you place one in the map editor.
It's yours.
And yep, got all the collectibles, so I just need to get the tickets for Sturm and Hachi.
Good choice. What a deal.
Now does that completely clean him out?
Don't get beat. All right.
So, yeah, we can go over Hachi a little bit here, but I'll be showing him off in more detail once we get to the map. But yeah, he has average firepower across the board, but don't let that fool you, he is insane. Yeah, he is all about those discounts, and he doesn't get a firepower penalty like Colin. And he can build land units in cities during his Super CO power. Yep.
Maybe.
So yeah, you really should just house rule Hachi if you're going to be playing as him. He is completely busted. And so, we're going to show him off. Now, I was originally going to play on Last Mission, fittingly, which is against Andy and Nell, but it would be a national crime if I, an Australian, didn't do this map. I promised to do this off eventually, so let's go. And we have to do Advance Wars 2 style, because that's the only way you have access to Hachi. Okay, Sturm appears right here at the end of it. I guess because he's an Advance Wars 1 CO, technically. Oh.
Very good.
Oh, that looks cool.
I will conquer all. So it shall be.
Also, I bought the alternate colors for everyone as well, so you can see some of these. And his alternate colors give him blue skin, just like Dual Strike. And let's look at Hachi's. Oh, that one's pretty cool. What I do think is really cool about Hachi is that in Dual Strike, he has an unlockable outfit that shows how he would have looked back when he was the commander of Orange Star.
Aloha! Good choice. Aw, shucks. I'm in.
He's like Sean Chiplock is kind of an interesting voice actor choice for Hachi, but I do really like it. In fact, I wouldn't even be able to tell it was Sean Chiplock if I didn't know. And yes, his theme is just his shop theme. But okay then. Rumored to be Orange Star's former chief, he's closing up shop to relive his glory days in the battlefield once more. Deploys units at a 10% discount with no penalty to firepower or defense. Hachi's only weakness is that his troops are average and they always stay average, aside from the 10% defense he gets out of powers. But 10% off everything with no drawbacks is still ridiculous. Barter. Receive 50% off deployment costs, and it only costs 3. This alone is actually pretty good. Most people play Hachi just using his regular power, but his superpower, Merchant Union, as we discussed earlier, lets him deploy land units in cities. It only costs a total meter of 5, the same as Adder as well. A lot of maps are broken horribly simply by the fact that you can deploy units in cities. They are not designed with that in mind. For example, yeah, we're supposed to only need landers in order to get units to this island, but with Hachi's superpower, I could deploy infantry in these cities and start capturing it. Of course, even that being said, we still get landers at a discount, and I can afford 1 infantry as well on top of that. And confession time, this is going to be post-commentary. War Room maps take a while to get a clean run of. But as you can see here, Kanbei already has a lot of properties, and this is Advance Wars 2 Kanbei, which is quite a formidable opponent, even for Hachi. Hachi definitely has an edge, but still, Kanbei's +2 defense is a little insane. So I'm going to be starting by building some landers and some infantry. Unfortunately, I can only afford 1 infantry after I get the landers. And Kanbei has a base right in the center, so that will be where Uluru is. And he's also got a base down where, I believe that's in Victoria, so that'd be like Melbourne. So my first goal is to start capturing the base that represents Sydney, my hometown. But it's not just because it's my hometown, it's actually because I found the best strategy for the early game here is to shut down that base on the eastern coast. That is the base in Melbourne, to go by what it actually corresponds to in Australia. And the best way to do that is to go for a, basically just pile in as many Neo-tanks as possible on that. So he's got an artillery, and I've noticed that Kanbei artillery in particular are very dangerous on this map, just because they do a lot of damage to medium and Neo-tanks, and without a firepower bonus, Hachi is very reliant on basically like outgunning his enemies with expensive units. But I'm going to go for some captures in Queensland here, the sort of northeastern state of Australia, and building a tank here right now, because I think I have enough landers for the moment. I definitely want more infantry. Usually in War Room you want to be spamming out infantry, but on a map like this you do kind of need to start out with landers, because one of the goals here is to capture as much of New Zealand as possible. This is going to sound really weird out of context, because you need that income advantage when you're going up against Kanbei. So yeah, he has an anti-air and an artillery down below, but we're going to start capturing that base up there. There's a tank coming towards it, but yeah, I can already build medium tanks. Hachi gets medium tanks for only around 14,000, which is an absolute steal. Like, cheaper than rockets, and the price of 2 regular tanks, and medium tanks are generally about as good as 3 regular tanks. Now, another thing that I like doing is to keep my landers hovering around the side coast, just so that I can, like, ferry some units quickly. Just even a few tiles down the map is very useful. So he's got a couple of tanks heading towards Queensland, going through the Northern Territory there. There isn't really a base in the Northern Territory. Northern Territory is, well, the Northern Territory of Australia. It's one of the few states that I haven't actually been to. I believe it's just, yeah, I haven't been to Northern Territory, and I have not been to Tasmania. In fact, Tasmania doesn't even exist in this map. So whoever made this must have just really hated Tasmania. Or like Tasmania, because it means they're kept out of the war. But, okay, yeah, so here's a slight problem. If I go down here, I get in range of his artillery, and that's usually a bad thing. But we can see Hachi's animations here. This is like, doing a kind of a theoretical war simulation, just to settle a score between fellow students, I guess. I didn't actually realize that both Kanbei and Hachi studied under Sensei. I thought that it was more that Sensei and Hachi were like both old war buddies together. But I guess Hachi does seem a little bit younger than Sensei. But okay, I actually went there to try and provoke that artillery into shooting the lander instead, and is going for a tank there. In general, you do want to try and get as oppressive as possible with your presence here, as whenever you're playing as Hachi. Just spam out units that are better than whatever your opponent has. Yeah, just putting that lander over there so I can get things over to New Zealand faster. I've already forgotten which island of New Zealand is which, but yeah, I haven't been there either. My sister has for a honeymoon, but I have not. I just mostly know it is where a lot of Lord of the Rings was filmed. And yes, I was right. The artillery did shoot the lander. In fact, I may have, that this might have even been an accident, I don't know. But if it was an accident, it was a happy accident, because it means the medium tank is undamaged, and that's really helpful. So unfortunately, this battle up here in Brisbane is going to be quite difficult for me, because Kanbei tanks are practically as good as anti-air against infantry, and Kanbei's got 2 tanks up here. I only have a regular tank, but it's an average regular tank, which is not going to stand up to Kanbei. So I'm going to need a medium tank up there, but I want to get some medium tanks down below as well. He sometimes wastes his funds on landers, but you gotta be careful though, because sometimes he does send, and the first time I recorded this, or at least attempted to record this, he never did this. But the second and third, I think this is my third attempt at this map overall, times that he did this, he actually did send a lander with an APC of infantry over to New Zealand, and if Kanbei gets a foothold there, especially if he gets the bases, you should pretty much restart, because it's not so much that bases there are a threat to you, but it's more that they'll just make his income so high that there's just no way you'll be able to match him. But yeah, I just got a Neo tank for only about 19,000. That is just how ridiculous Hachi can be. Because yeah, that's why Hachi is so broken. It isn't really that like, because like having average units is really no big deal when you can get Neo tanks when your opponents are struggling to get like medium tanks. And just, if you're looking at this, like Kanbei is a very overpowered CO. And this is Hachi versus, like, somebody that powerful. Imagine Hachi versus somebody average or even low tier. One thing I will admit, though, is, like, technically speaking, even though there are, well, I mean, there is Flak. I was thinking, like, there are no real low tiers in Advance Wars, but, well, there's Flak. The thing is that I feel that in Advance Wars, the tiers range from average to broken. And in general, everybody is at least somewhat good. It's something that I do like about this game. Yeah, there are some pretty big power imbalances, but everyone is at least fun to use for the most part. And that is, yeah, generally a kind of design that I enjoy. I pulled his tank back with a lander here as well. I was worried for a second that would actually kill me, but it didn't. Regular tanks, even from Kanbei, are not really good enough to take down a lander. But yeah, it is kind of a design philosophy that I've always appreciated a lot in video games, the whole idea of when everyone's broken, no one is. So here's a thing with War Room, and I'm not sure if it's still true in Reboot Camp or if they made it more lenient, but in the original game, the technique score for War Room was actually harsher than in Campaign, which is kind of weird because it's a lot harder to keep your units alive here than it is in the campaign. In the original, you needed, and yeah, you can see there's an APC with infantry in it for that. Also, I've turned on the capture animation because this is the last time we'll be seeing it. Unless I do more War Room in the future, which I might. But yeah, in the original, you could only afford to lose 10% of your army in War Room for a perfect technique score, instead of 20% like the campaign. Kind of ummed and ahed a little bit there, but then I decided to take out the artillery, because the artillery is definitely the biggest threat here. Nothing short of a medium tank is going to really do much to Neo tanks otherwise. Of course, when Kanbei does start getting medium tanks, they are actually a bit of a match for Hachi's Neo tanks. That's just the way it goes with Kanbei. I think I decided to attack this rather than the thing on the city, because it's not going to get that capture anyway, and also, yeah, there's another artillery. But now that I have a whole lot of tanks, also, that lander right there, that lander is going to be moving towards the HQ, but it's just going to hover around the HQ rather than actually going to unload the infantry just yet. My plan was to make sure I had a lander, like, within range of his HQ's beaches, but then I would just have that hover there until I was ready to rush in, and with other units. Because my plan here was to get some Hachi battleships in there. Super, super cheap battleships. That's gonna really, really even the odds here. Okay, I have my power, and this actually kind of sucks. I forgot that what you're supposed to do with Hachi, do not build units until the end of your turn, because Hachi is one of those characters where it doesn't matter when in his turn he gets his power, because it's a discount and based on, like, unit deployments. So, yeah, don't do what I did here. In fact, I actually made this mistake a few more times in this map. Basically, always build units at the end of your turn with Hachi. Because that way, if you get your power mid-turn, you can use it and then get a 50% discount, and then you'll be able to get like 2 Neo tanks for 11,000 each. Because that's why Hachi's powers are so insane. Now, yeah, once again, the battle for the Brisbane port is going to be very heated, and it's not really going to go so well. I think I eventually sort of, like... So, my idea here was less that I wanted to actually get this area, and more that I wanted to kind of shut down Kanbei in this area. Because if you can shut down Kanbei in both the north and the south, then you're pretty much good. And yeah, taking two... Look at that, look at that! Tank versus Neo tank. he comes out 3 HP lost on the tank and 2 HP lost on the Neo tank. That is, I'm pretty sure, a net gain for him. Now, here would normally be a really big problem, but I can get this tank in, and I'm using my power.
Call me Hachi! Barter!
I love this power animation so much. But yeah, all the normal power does is give you a 50% discount. It's the one that most people just stick with, because also we get surfer music for Hachi, which is great. But yeah, what I was saying about that artillery was that it's kind of gone behind some other units, but I can kill off that infantry, and once I do, I can get at that artillery, and then, okay, he does have a medium tank down there though. Like I said, Kanbei medium tanks are really, really dangerous against Hachi's units, because he has no firepower or defense bonus of his own. Yeah, now I'm just going to see whether... Okay, yeah, the full health medium tank will do more than the lower health Neo tank. That is kind of the thing, like, medium tanks and Neo tanks, the power imbalance between them, like, in terms of raw firepower, isn't huge, but the thing is that, Neo tanks do a lot more damage to medium tanks, though, comparatively speaking, and that's where they really shine. And that and their +1 movement. But as you can see here, yeah, one more Neo tank for 11,000, and I probably have enough to afford, like, a regular tank, too. Yeah, this guy's unfortunately not really gonna be... I mean, I doubt I'll get that capture anytime soon. And yeah, at this point I decided I'm just gonna retreat some of these units, even though the tanks will probably be able to chase them down. Unless I build my own tank from there. I don't know why I did that, actually. If I kept the tank below, it would have been blocked, but I guess I just wanted to get a little bit of damage on him. Because yeah, now that thing can kind of kill my 5 HP infantry. And I just realized here that, like, I can't unload both units unless I go down to this lower shore. But I thought, okay, I do need some infantry down near Sydney because I need to get that base in Melbourne. So, yeah, benefit of being Australian, I can actually explain this map as if it was, like, actually Australia. Because, yeah, there's not a whole lot in South Australia. There isn't even a base there. I have been to South Australia. And yeah, you can get infantry for 500, which does mean you can spam an absolutely ludicrous amount of infantry in a single turn. Hachi is kind of like the Blue Eyes, the Kaiba summoning a bunch of monsters in one turn meme. You can't summon 50 infantry in one turn. Literally screw the rules. I have money. I just realized that. But yeah, he only has like mechs and stuff out of the center right now. And yeah, my Neo tank is getting damaged, but Hachi is the even more exaggerated version of, I'll buy you a new one than Colin, because now it's like, yeah, I can just get another Neo tank whenever I want, it's fine. This is exactly why I don't recommend using Hachi in multiplayer unless you don't want to, unless you're using him versus Sturm. Or like, I kind of wonder how a Hachi versus Hachi mirror match would go. That'd be kind of amusing. But yeah, we've got a Kanbei medium tank in play. Thankfully, it's not a Kanbei power medium tank. But yeah, he had to drop off his infantry. He can't actually capture with it this turn. So at this point, I'm kind of confident that even if he starts to get that base, I am going to be able to have a foothold. Now, I did make a mistake in this turn. So here's the thing with post-commentary, is I can point out my own mistakes. And my mistake right here was that I captured with that city instead of weakening that infantry. So you'll see in a moment why I should have weakened that infantry. It's almost like this is like I'm kind of commentating on a chess game, like in post. I did play chess in high school because it was like the closest thing to a strategy game, but I was not good at it. I was not good at it at all. That's sort of the thing. Like, I mean, I don't know if how much high-level play in Advance Wars actually resembles high-level play of chess, but to me, high-level play of chess was never very interesting because, also, if you're attacking Kanbei's medium tanks, you want to do it from a city, and still it was even. And you kind of have to go for, like, sheer weight of numbers here, but I have another Neo tank incoming, it's fine. But, like, I felt like high-level play in chess was more about pattern recognition than it was about actual strategy. Yeah, and for some reason, he likes to put a bunch of landers just on the shore there for no real reason. And I kind of realized something. I think this turn, I do think I get a Neo tank out of Brisbane, because I think, like, that's, like, the main method that I had to shut down his units up in the north. So let's see if I did that. No, I can't quite get a Neo Tank. Just barely couldn't get a Neo Tank. But a medium tank is fine. Like, those 2 units these got there, they get shut down by medium tanks. In general, medium tanks are a hard counter to regular tanks, and their hard counter is either Neo Tanks if you're rich or artillery if you're poor. So I debated whether to drop off my infantry this turn, but no, I think I'm actually going to go and put it closer. My idea is to put it in this reef, and then just have it wait there. It'll only use 1 fuel per turn, so it'll survive. And the lander here is eventually going to be used to make a push for the HQ once I've got most of New Zealand. And this is the reason why I should have damaged that infantry.
Nothing can stop me.
And this is literally true.
Samurai spirit.
Something I do find a bit weird about War Room is that, like, player 1 is always red and player 2 is always blue, which means in this version, Kanbei is getting the Blue Moon superpower fanfare, which really shouldn't be happening. I think War Room in the original didn't work like that. I think you always got your faction's colors in player 1. But yeah, here is the reason why I should have damaged that infantry. So do you see what happened there? Samurai Spirit, with that infantry being on 3-star terrain, means I cannot damage that infantry, which means he's guaranteed to capture that base. If I had damaged it by even 1 HP, he would have been delayed in getting that base by at least 1 more turn, and even though I wouldn't have been able to attack him during Samurai Spirit, I might have been able to finish him off the turn after, so if I had forgone that capture with my infantry. Normally, I say forgoing captures is really bad, but if I had forgone that capture with my infantry, then I could have stopped him getting that base. At this point, I just realized, yeah, that sucks. Because, like, yeah, there is no way infantry versus Kanbei infantry in Samurai Spirit is a good idea. Because not only is his defense basically impenetrable, but he will be counterattacking 50% harder on my infantry, so yeah, don't do that. I was just kind of checking which units I lost for technique there. But, okay then, yeah. I'm doing that to at least prevent him from getting that port, because it would be even worse if he got that port. And yeah, that's Samurai Spirit for you. I just cannot attack that regular tank with a medium tank, because its defense is just too high. This is just why, like, defense is better than firepower. Defense also kind of, like, you know, equates to firepower because of the fact that units that take damage, like, do less damage. But still. Now that medium tank with Samurai Spirit is on low HP, and I think it's only on a forest, not like a city, but like, seriously, Neo Tank versus Infantry does like barely anything. And you'll see an even more ridiculous case of Samurai Spirit later in this map, because Kanbei is going to get a lot of them. I would really like to go for that tank, but I can't really do that now. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dual Strike's War Room actually does, yeah, I'm just gonna go for this, actually does, default player 1 to red and, like, player 2 to blue, etc. And yeah, I was confident that medium tank wouldn't be able to damage that infantry, and this way I can get 2 cities this turn. In fact, I'm pretty sure one of those cities is Canberra, which leads me to an interesting fact about Canberra, the capital city of Australia that was created because both Sydney and Melbourne wanted to be capital, so they decided to compromise and build a new city in between them just to serve as the capital. Also, non-Australians always pronounce it as Canberra because that's how it's spelled. But no, one of the E's is like silent. It's Canberra. And that lander will stay there forever. Well, stay there for a while. But yeah, the other thing about Canberra that's kind of interesting, and is a little bit relevant here actually, is part of the reason why Canberra was like built is, oh, and then I realized, oh wait, he could do this, so actually I don't get 2 cities. Part of the reason Canberra was like put where it was is they wanted a capital city of Australia that wasn't surrounded, that wasn't on the coast, because that would be harder to attack during wartime. Because, like, almost all of Australia's population and most of its major cities are clustered around the coast, whereas Canberra, being the capital and where Parliament is, it's one of the few that's not, like, on a major coastline. But, okay then, I've got most of New Zealand at this point. Basically, once I get to this point with Hachi, I can afford Neo-Tanks every turn, and that's gonna result in, well, yeah, things are going to be pretty insane at this point. So that's what I really want. I wanted to stop Kanbei from getting a foothold in, and again, I forget what the name of the bottom island of New Zealand is. I know Auckland, I know Wellington, but I forget, I think Auckland's the capital. Yep, New Zealanders are going to be very, very angry at me right now. Shout outs to any New Zealanders who watch these videos. Okay, yeah, I think I decided to go for this anti-air right now. Okay, that's down. And I have barter again. And am I dumb this time? And do I buy units before using barter? Or am I going to go for some merchant Eugen? Okay, I think I decided to abandon this capture so that I could get a hit on this tank. This kind of sucks, but I have a ton of cities in New Zealand anyway, so I've got more than enough income for the moment. And I blocked his base. So yeah, this was the core of my early game strategy for this map, was to basically shut down this southern base. Because if Kanbei keeps that base, then it's very hard to make any progress. So now, my 2 tanks in the north, 2 medium tanks that is, are gonna take down some of Kanbei's troops in here, and as you can see, he really doesn't have much that can threaten them here. So I've pretty much got this area kind of locked down. I would say this is like an indicator of like what a quote-unquote regular match of like Advance Wars looks like. I do kind of wish that your opponent's CO power meter was like visible on the UI at all times, because I don't like having to like go into the menu and look at it every time. And yeah, I decided, yeah, Neo Tank there, because that's going to totally shut down Kanbei's efforts to make a foothold in New Zealand. So yeah, pretty much I own there now. I was just thinking that I like the way the water looks here. It just reminded me of like one of my earliest holidays, which was to Queensland actually. I went somewhere called Fraser Island, and yeah, I'm not going to let you get that because of my Neo Tank. And there, the water was like full-on see-through, which I have never seen before in water. Like, that was like the cleanest, clearest water I have ever seen in my life. I believe there actually, and this is such a cliche Australia thing, but I believe there actually was a dingo. Like, we had a guide there. I also believe that, like, there was a snake as well that he, like, picked up, and, like, most areas in Australia aren't like this, by the way. But, like, yeah, I think there actually was, like, or at least they told us, like, don't leave food scraps out because of dingoes. And I'd probably rather have to deal with those than bears. Like, people say that, like, oh yeah, Australia's full of, like, deadly animals. Like, the US has bears. How do you deal with bears just being a thing in actually populated settlements? But okay, he got an artillery here, but yeah, I decided that I would attack the infantry instead, and the reason is, the artillery can't actually shoot me from here, and this way I stop him from capturing one of my cities, because anytime that, you know, the enemy is going for a capture on one of your cities, you want to make sure to interrupt it, because, if they get it, that's not only 1,000 more income for them, it's 1,000 less income for you. And on that note, you always want to try and, like, if you've got a choice between a neutral city or an enemy city, always go for the enemy city. Unless, like, you die if you capture the enemy city. So yeah, I've lost 6 units already, which is not great, but, like, it's okay. And we've both deployed about 30, so I am going to need, like, about 5 kills in a single turn. Like, honestly, power in War Room is easier than you might think, because usually the enemy just, like even if, like, the enemy starts with a massive advance, I'm saying the enemy so much, I'm starting to sound like Fuka, but, like, normally, like, okay, I was legit paranoid of that tank getting a first strike on my Neo tank on the road, because that would actually probably cripple me a bit, but yeah. Like, they often do give the enemy in War Room a big, like, income advantage, but usually War Room maps do not have a lot of, deployment properties on them. Or at least, like, the enemy doesn't have, like, a whole lot of deployment properties, to take advantage of their huge income. And if they do, they're usually very scattered. It's not like Final Front on normal mode, where Sturm has a massive ton of bases that are all clustered together. So usually you won't see, like, 70+ unit counts in War Room. Mostly because it's only, like, the really late War Room maps that even do give, like, the enemy really big incomes as is. But yeah, at this point, I was kind of sucking here early on, but at this point, I've kind of got the north a little more locked down. I might be able to start pressing into the central part of Australia, which is basically all desert, and I've never been there, even though a lot of people like going there. Probably need to go there at some point. Like, there's a train in Australia that goes from Adelaide in South Australia all the way up to Darwin in the Northern Territory, all the way through the centre.
Stand your ground, soldier! Merchant Union!
And so, here is Merchant Union. We're about to see what happens when Hachi can deploy troops in cities. Or not really, because I don't really have a lot of cities that are going to be advantageous to deploy units from. But yeah, you can see that all of his cities, like, pop up like this. Now, in Dual Strike, there is, like... Dual Strike has a skills system, and... Oh yeah, I decided, yep, let's get a 50% off battleship. Yeah, medium tanks for only 8,000 is downright disgusting as well. Like, Hachi can feasibly get, like, 4 or more medium tanks in a single turn. It's really just absolutely insane. But yeah, there's a skill system in Dual Strike, and one of the skills that you unlock for beating the campaign, or is it hard campaign? I forget whether you have to beat normal or hard, but like, it's one of the final skills you have access to. It's called Soul of Hachi, which kind of makes it sound like Hachi's dead in that game. He's not, he's still fully playable, but Soul of Hachi makes it so that you can deploy units in cities during your superpower. So it kind of gives everyone the effect of Hachi, but nobody gets the 50% discount like Hachi does. There are skills that give you like a small discount, but nothing to the extent of Hachi's 50%. And yes, you can stack those skills with Colin or Hachi, which is kind of funny. In fact, on the note of, like, Dual Strike, like, if I do play that game, one of the modes that I'm really, really excited to try and cover is the survival mode. It's a really cool idea. Basically, there are 3 types of survival: time, turns, and money. Each of them has you going through 10 very short maps. They're like mini war room maps. They're all very short, can be beaten in about 1 to 4 turns each. Depending on how things go. But, the whole gimmick is that for turn survival, you have, like, a turn limit for the whole thing. And then you want to go for a high score by finishing all 10 maps in as few turns as possible. For time, it's a real-time time limit, because, Dual Strike had this weird gimmick where they liked putting in real-time timers for things. It was really dumb, and most people didn't like it. One of those aspects of Dual Strike that was a little too experimental. This medium tank is actually close to running low on ammo, which is really silly. Yes, it actually ran out of ammo there, which really goes to show just how good of a medium tank it's been. In fact, I think this is the first time I've ever had a medium tank run out of ammo, which should say something. I might have to join that 4 HP one into it. But yeah, my personal favorite survival mode is Money Survival. In Money Survival, you start with something like 500,000 funds, like a really big number of funds, but you never get any more. So that money has to last you for the entire run of 10 maps, and the final map is basically just a normal war room game. So, like, you need to save a lot of money for the last map. But also, like, you can go for, like, high scores by trying to finish the map, spending as little money as possible. And of course, Colin is an option, but, like, if you're using Colin, you've got less firepower. I mean, Hachi totally breaks Money Survival, but still. Yeah, that's kind of the cheap way. Although, one of the really dumb things I found about that, I forget if it's, I think it actually might be Turn Survival that's this. There was a time when the world record for one of those survival modes was done with Flak, and also Nell, because Nell is objectively better, but it was actually done with Flak, or I think Jugger, who's like the clone of Flak in that game, because luck damage. If you get lucky with luck damage, you can beat those maps in like 1 turn. But yeah, so basically people save scum or like, okay, and at this point I decided, because this is a really long map, I decided, you know what, let's turn off battle animations for a while, we've seen them for long enough, and I'll turn them back on again towards the end. But yeah, it's still like, you know, optimal, you know, efficient strats is, I believe actually it was a task though. And a task can guarantee certain luck values with like luck-based powers. Yeah, I wanted a battleship, but yeah, that sucks. Speaking of that though, this is actually something, so I thought, you know, while we're in, like, the last part of this playthrough, I thought I could talk about some things about this game that I never got to talk about before, and one of them is that, I don't know if this is still true in Reboot Camp, but I know it was true in the original. In the original, the luck-based COs, like Flak and Nell, if they were controlled by the AI knew its luck rolls before it actually decided what to attack. So, it's that kind of accusation that people levied at Pokemon Stadium, where people are like, oh, the AI knows if it's going to get a critical hit or not. I don't know if that's true of Pokemon Stadium, that might be a myth, but it was true of Flak and Nell in the original. Like, the AI specifically knew whether it would get a good luck roll, and so you might see it do weird things like not attack with like a full health Neo tank against an infantry, and that's because it knows that it would have got a bad luck roll. But here's the weird thing. The AI like knows its luck rolls before attacking, but the luck rolls are actually re-rolled when it actually attacks, meaning that it still can end up doing low damage. Somehow, even when Flak is cheating, he's still bad. Which is just kind of classic Flak, to be honest. But yeah, that's kind of a funny thing. I don't know if that's... I highly doubt that's true of the AI in Reboot Camp. I don't know if anyone's ever tried to dissect the AI of Reboot Camp yet. I know that the AI of the original game was dissected quite a lot. In fact, Kartal, in fact... Okay, here's the thing. I was totally wrong earlier. It was actually Ephraim who did the playthrough of Days of Ruin and Dark Conflict simultaneously. Kartal is the one who did like some analysis videos on the AI of Black Hole Rising though, which can do some weird things at times, and I'm pretty sure most of that doesn't, you know, work anymore. But yeah, so now that I have that taken out, and now I can shut down his one city here, his one base here, and that basically means that, yeah, I am uncontested in New Zealand. Oh, you know, this just actually reminds me, like, yeah, this is just something else that I remember from that GBA magazine that was how I got into Advance Wars. And that is that, like, a long time ago, they actually made a limited edition Game Boy Advance SP based on a New Zealand rugby team. And, like, I saw, like, somebody wrote in to, like, the magazine saying, like, is that New Zealand exclusive? What do we in Australia get, you know, in comparison, or at least they wrote in assuming that that was a New Zealand exclusive thing, and then that, you know, like they were told in like the letters column, no, we in Australia got the All Blacks Game Boy Advance SP2. For some reason, it was just released everywhere. Probably not in like the US though.
Allow me to show you my strength.
So I really don't know what happened there. Whether that team did a deal with Nintendo somehow. Feels like only yesterday that he had Samurai Spirit before, but I guess that just shows how badly he's losing right now. Because, yeah, he's actually pretty shut down at the moment, so the next phase of my plan is to push through South Australia into his HQ, which is, like, right at the bottom of Western Australia, which is actually kind of weird because, that's not where Perth is, the capital of Western Australia, or is it? I always felt like Perth was more centralized. Hang on, let me look that up, because I'm a disgrace to Australia if I get this wrong. Where's Perth? Looking up on Google Maps. Perth is, yep, Perth is, oh, actually, no, Perth is actually fairly, yeah, no, Perth is actually pretty close to the bottom of Western Australia. It's not right at the bottom, it's not where his HQ is. His HQ is kind of in an area that is, from my Google Earth, Cranbrook. Okay. There's an area nearby that's literally called Rocky Gully, and I read that as Rocky Guilty. I've been playing too much, mystery games lately. Quite enjoying Raincoat at the moment. But, yeah, that's Samurai Spirit for you. I shouldn't have done that, by the way. I really should not have attacked that anti-air. That was just stupid. Do not attack anything on defensive terrain during Samurai Spirit, especially not infantry versus anti-air. But yeah, I zoomed out the map here just to give you a bit of an idea. In the original game, there was like a mode where you could actually just press like the start button and look at like a full overview of the map, and look at like, I liked it because it showed like where, and this is where I was dumb. I should have built units later. There's also a medium tank over here, so I have to be kind of careful. But like it showed you like how much of the map was each color, like how many cities were owned by each player. So like you could tell at a glance how much territory everyone owned. That's kind of a little harder to do here. I feel like they thought that the fully zoomed out map was enough, but I don't know, I don't really think it is. I like those blinking dots. But as I stay out of range of that medium tank that's over there in the Northern Territory, and he's got 2 artillery out of his HQ. There are times when he doesn't build, like, basically anything out of his HQ, but don't let that fool you. If you put units near there, he will start building things, and if he gets a medium tank out of his HQ and you have no answers to that, and by answers to that I mean battleships or neo-tanks, realistically, then you basically just can't do anything with your infantry. Like, there's no way you'll be able to stop that medium tank. But yeah, so speaking of AI, here's a fun fact about the AI in the original GBA Black Hole Rising. Am I going to use Merchant Union this turn? I probably will get Merchant Union this turn. But yeah, here's a fun fact about the AI. There are 7 different AI types that are assigned to enemies randomly. But in pre-deployed maps, every enemy has 1 AI set. So AI 1 is target enemy HQ. AI 2 is escort infantry and transports, 3 is capture properties, 4 is aggressive, 5 is defensive, and 7 is protect own HQ. You might notice I skipped a number. Type 6, for some reason, exists, but is never used outside of 2 medium tanks in Drake's Dilemma, and nobody has any idea why. Yeah, that battleship could shoot at that artillery this turn, but I want to keep that battleship moving. My goal is to get the battleships, now that I have 2, plural, is to get the battleships over to the HQ and get a bombardment going there. Yeah, unfortunately I needed to do that, and also, once again, I'm dumb and I built units before using my power. Really should stop doing that. But yeah, my goal is to get the 2 battleships to cover his HQ bases, and yeah, my land is assigned to run low on fuel. So, at this point I decided, you know what, I'm going to have these landers go around that bottom shore. It's kind of like in between South Australia and Western Australia. And here I thought, okay, I'm going to build units in New Zealand, and I'm going to use landers to start ferrying those towards the HQ. And I'm making a bit of a push into the Northern Territory too. Yes, Northern Territory. Okay. I feel like in World War II, I think Japan actually did get something to the Northern Territory, like almost attack them. And the only reason I know that is because there was this film simply called Australia, starring Hugh Jackman, because of course, that came out a while. I think it was Baz Luhrmann too, and he's actually got a pretty good pedigree. He's an Australian director, and he did the silly but admittedly very fun Romeo and Juliet. What did he also do? I'm pretty sure he did do Moulin Rouge, actually. I saw Moulin Rouge once. That movie is an outright drug trip. Yes, it is. Oh, actually, no. Co-written. It was directed by him. Okay, so he did do Moulin Rouge.
Woo! This brings back memories!
Extremely weird movie, that. I don't recommend watching it. But anyway, so there was this film simply called. Let me just look this film up. This is just a benefit of doing post-commentary, because I can look things up while I'm epic adventure drama directed by, yes, it's Baz Luhrmann. Oh, also Nicole Kidman, who's another like very popular, famous Australian actress. Most people don't really think she's a great actress, like honestly, but yeah. So this movie was pretty much designed to boost Australian tourism, and it failed miserably. Like, it was not a good film. I've never watched it, but from what I've heard, it's not a good film, and it did not get very good reviews. The mech down there is covered by the medium tank, so even if the medium tank does hit it, does get hit by the enemy medium tank, the mech and infantry will be able to start moving on that city there. which is kind of like towards the... Not exactly sure where that is. That's like, getting towards... It's an area that I've wanted to go at some point. I like that there's a range of mountains here because, like, that kind of represents, like, the ones, at least in New South Wales, will represent the Blue Mountains or the Snowy Mountains. But yeah, I think that movie had to do with, like, a Japanese attack on, like, that part of the Northern Territory, but again, it was a massive failure. But actually, speaking of that, something about Hachi that I kind of only realized when hearing, like, his music here, and the fact that he says Aloha on the select screen. I never really realized this, but with Orange Star representing America, I think Hachi is meant to represent Hawaii. And considering that he has, like, a Japanese name and acts like a stereotypical Japanese merchant, I mean, the Japanese version, his name is B, but Hachi is Japanese for B. Hawaii does have a lot of Japanese immigrants, so I wonder if that's what they're referencing. Okay, yeah, he's probably gonna use morale boost.
Prepare yourself.
He has a rocket there.
Morale boost.
Yeah, that rocket could potentially be a problem zoning me out of that area, but really I don't actually need to even go in there. At the moment, I'm sending a bunch of Neotanks just straight through South Australia up to his HQ. Once I get a whole ton of Neotanks on there, well, I mean, okay. I was thinking that might happen, but at least my foot soldiers there are safe, and I have a Neotank coming. And attacking his units during morale boost is way better than attacking them during Samurai Spirit. That's like the price you pay with morale boost is you don't get the complete invincibility during the enemy phase. It's almost like you're using Lucina's emblem from Fire Emblem Engage. But okay, so there are a few more things in this game that I wanted to talk about. And one of them was some, I guess I'll just make this the customary unused content episode. Now, just bear in mind, this is unused content from the original game, not from Reboot Camp, because I'm not really sure what the unused content in Reboot Camp is. But, okay, so... right, unused content in Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising. There isn't a lot of interesting unused content in the original Advance Wars. So, there exists a function for a variable defense bonus that works the same way as Colin's variable firepower bonus from Power of Money. Maybe Colin's Power of Money was originally supposed to increase defense and firepower, but they decided that would be even more broken. That would make Colin even more broken, that is, because Power of Money on its own is not really that great, but if it boosted defense, maybe people would actually use it over Gold Rush. Like, the only real reason people don't use Power of Money is because, Gold Rush is so good. Speaking of unused power effects, so remember how in Advance Wars 1, Sammy's double time, made it so that her infantry could cross terrain at 0 movement cost? That effect is still in the code for Advance Wars 2 Black Hole Rising, but it's not used. It would have made Victory March even more ridiculous, so I can understand why they decided not to do that. Also, I just shut off that medium tank there just to guarantee that I get one of his cities with my infantry. Yeah, not really sure why I decided to drop that infantry off in range of the artillery. I thought that maybe the artillery would shoot the transport, but I don't think it will. The nerfed version of Sturm's Meteor Strike from Advance Wars 1's Versus mode is also in the code of Black Hole Rising, but it's not used. And this isn't a CO power, but rather a CO effect. And that is, you know how Drake has the effect of increasing the chances of random weather? Increasing the chances of rain in random weather? Okay, he got a Neotank out of there. I need to be very careful here. I basically, so my plan here is just don't provoke that Neotank at all. It's probably not worth it. As long as I don't, like, attack that anti-air this turn, which means my infantry may end up getting mauled, but it does mean that the Neotank isn't on me for one more turn. But yeah, so Drake increases the odds of rain in random weather, right? So there is an unused effect that is the same thing but for snow, increasing the odds of snow happening in random weather. And it was probably meant to be assigned to Olaf, but he doesn't get that in random weather. And my battleships are closing in on the HQ. One of them's in a pretty good spot right now. Kanbei, yep, I still come out the loser of that engagement, even though we have equal HP, the Neo Tank is more expensive, so yes, that's still losing. I have a Neo Tank in range of artillery, but there's 3 Neo Tanks, so it should be fine. There are 5 unused unit slots in the game. So it's possible they planned on adding more units, more new units in Black Hole Rising besides just the Neo Tank. It would have been kind of cool. One of the issues that I always felt with Advance Wars 2, and it's one of the main criticisms that the game had back in the day.
Stand your ground, soldier! Martyr!
Is that it felt more like an expansion pack than an actual sequel, because it only added, like, new COs, 1 new unit, and a new campaign. And that's why I'm glad that Reboot Camp, like, contains both the original and Black Hole Rising, because really, you could not sell a game like Black Hole Rising on its own these days. It would be DLC, maybe, but, like, yeah, this was back kind of during the expansion pack era, but it wasn't even like because a PC expansion pack would be a lot cheaper. This was like the full price of a game. It's part of why I'm glad that I never played the original, because it would mean that I would kind of have to pay twice for mostly the same kind of game. I'm glad this remake exists, because, yeah, it's kind of the reason why I ended up being able to play, Advance Wars 1, and I did end up enjoying its campaign. While we're moving some naval units around, the cruiser has an unused animation for attacking land units. Don't know how much more useful it would have been if that was the case, but yeah, it's a very weird and unfinished looking animation though. And another thing that's not listed on the unused content pages, I've already mentioned this, but I want to say it again just so I think it's interesting. If APCs had guns, Max would get a firepower bonus on them, because transports are coded as direct combat units that just don't have weapons. And I got a 3rd battleship, because why not? My aim was to shoot some of the landers down, but here's actually an interesting thing that I only found out about recently. So, for the power score, if you destroy a transport that has a unit loaded inside it, that, to quote Lord of the Rings, still only counts as 1. Whereas, for technique, that actually does count as 2 losses. So, power and technique aren't entirely equal in that regard. And I hit the unit cap, which is very common when using Hachi. The game does support neutral HQs, and capturing one will give you a second HQ. The thing is, you still lose the game if any of your HQs get captured, so it's pointless to have a second one, but it's still kind of funny. There is a wide river tile that only gets used in one map, Lost River. This might actually be different in Reboot Camp, though. There's an unused wallpaper image of Eagle with a motorcycle, so that's kind of cool. And, oh, actually, something that I really... Yeah, okay, this is something that I really need to mention, that I never really got a chance to mention before. And that is... that... this is one of the few things about this remake that I do prefer in the original. Originally, there were 17 different victory images, and I think a lot of these were like real digitized photographs, which is something they did for Fire Emblem 7 a lot as well. And these images definitely gave that feeling that Black Hole Rising took war a lot more seriously than the first game. I'll be showing some of these, you know, map completion images now, because they are very interesting. And, The thing is, there are 17 of these. Many of the campaign maps had their own exclusive ones. For example, like Hot Pursuit did show, like, a tank overlooking 3 cannons, and Final Front showed the Death Ray. There is an unused behavior in the game related to those, though. And that is that if a value of 0 is assigned to a map for what ending image to show, then it will pick a random one. The thing is that apparently every map in the game has one of these images already assigned to it. So, yeah, I think all of the war rooms get this image that has like a tank being constructed, and I think that's the same one used for most, like, player-created design room maps as well. Like, that's kind of like the generic default image. See, I've lost 16 units, but I built over 70, so yeah, you will get like a unit count that big if using Hachi. I was just a little bit worried here about feeding this Neo-Tank infantry, but it is keeping it away from my Neo-Tanks. Speaking of every map having something assigned to it, here's something interesting. Every Versus Mode map has a 100-point speed limit assigned to it. So either multiplayer was going to still score you, like the winning player, or you were going to have the option to play for score on every map in the game. So I knew that thing was going to die. Oh, and actually he did go and attack my Neo-Tank with his, so, I mean, it means those infantry are safe. But thankfully, he only got Samurai Spirit mid-turn, which means the AI is not going to use it. And that means that I can start capturing the HQ, and as long as I kill off that mech and damage these tanks, I should be good to win this in the next 2 turns. So we've got that capture points down by 10, and I have my battleships too, so let's go ahead and blast these with... I spend a little bit of time deliberating over what to shoot with the battleships. Also, yeah, let's turn the animations back on, because I have some tanks that can reach some of these tanks. It's always fun getting to actually see the battleship animations, because they're pretty rare outside of the campaign missions that outright give you free battleships. But if using Hachi, then you get battleships for, like, yeah, basically nothing. So, okay, I've talked about the victory screens, I've talked about the unused speed limits, what else can I talk about? Yeah, that's pretty much it aside from regional differences, which I've already mentioned. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this talk about unused content in the original games. There's basically no unused content in Advance Wars 1, which is kind of a shame, because you'd think there would be, but there isn't, apart from like the, you know, Japanese CO design differences. So yeah, I won't be able to block off this second base, but by the time he can get units out of it, it'll be too late. I basically have the HQ locked down right now, unless he's like, unless, you know, Samurai Spirit is going to make that 1 HP tank do 1 damage to the infantry on the HQ, but, given that Sturm with Meteor Strike decided not to attack a 1 HP unit with a 1 HP, not to attack a 1 HP tank with a 1 HP mech with his Meteor Strike active, probably, oh, and this tank might end up dying anyway. Maybe not because it's Kanbei. Yeah, definitely not. Yep, that's just the power of Kanbei for you. Defense is ridiculous. I've probably already mentioned this, but I'll just say it again. Dual Strike nerfed Kanbei back down to 20% firepower and defense, just like Advance Wars 1, which was very much needed. 30% was way too much. I really don't understand why they decided that Kanbei needed to be buffed. I mean, also just because lol, let's get a submarine. That lander is pinned in, which would have been really sad if it was actually in range of the rocket, but it's not. So, one more power for the road. I think Kaiji Tang does do a good job as Kanbei. Something that I did want to mention earlier that I never got a chance to, I actually do, as much as like Joe Zija is a good voice actor, I do wish that Sensei had a Japanese descent voice actor. I feel like he would have really benefited from that, just like some of the characters in Live Alive or in The Great Ace Attorney. I always, like, my perfect world voice actor for Sensei was always George Takei, but that might have just been because I've seen cutscenes from, like, Command & Conquer Red Alert 3, which is a ridiculously silly game. It has J.K. Simmons as an insane robot US president who has a laser in Mount Rushmore, and Tim Curry as a ridiculously stereotypical Russian communist who wants to escape to the one place that hasn't yet been corrupted by capitalism: space! The best part is you can actually see Tim Curry cracking up in the middle of saying that line. I thought I could kill that lander with like a combination of the transport and with the sub and the battleship, but no I couldn't, so I built that sub for nothing, but oh well. So before I end this, I want to show off something. 9 HP Neotank versus Infantry and Mountain. 0 damage! Because Kanbei. And I didn't even, like, that wasn't even any damage too, and I lost 1 HP. That is how ridiculous Samurai Spirit is. And I have 50 units, so I can't build more for technique. Let's end this. And that was an S rank. But, you know, if I didn't get an S rank with Hachi, it would have been really embarrassing. Most War Room maps, I feel, don't take that long. This is one of the later ones, and Kanbei starts with a lot of income. Sammy can make the War Room maps a lot faster, though. So, yeah, one day, I might actually do some War Room maps as, like, between projects videos. Or I could even use them for update videos, to be honest. But yeah, one day I'll be showing off Sammy in War Room, because she's ridiculous there. But, yep, I got a new high score on Egg Islands. Don't even know why it's called that. I guess because marsupials are, egg-laying mammals, and they're native to Australia. Before we leave War Room, I'd like to talk about these last few maps. All of these were only added in Black Hole Rising. But they're playable in Advance Wars 1 mode in the remake, which means they had to change the COs for them. And so instead of being against, like, the new COs, we've got Andy for Pay Dirt, Sammy here, Nell for Nest Egg, because Max would have been too good, Sturm is the opponent for the Trident, originally it was Nell, Banker Hills is normally against Hachi, it's against Clone Andy in the remake. Missile Planes is normally against Sturm, and in Advance Wars 1 mode it's against Max, because, yeah. This one is kind of cool. It's Clone Andy and Sturm teaming up. I wish that happened in the actual campaign. Risky Vale is against the father-daughter team. The Ring is Girl Power team, whereas in Black Hole Rising it's all of Green Earth. And the final one, Strong Land, is fittingly against Max, Sammy, and Andy, whereas in Black Hole Rising it's against Ada, Lash, and Flack. There's one more thing that I wanted to talk about here, and I don't think this happens in the remake, but in the original Black Hole Rising, some of the menu options would become gold and glowing if you achieved certain feats. For example, to gold Hachi's shop, you just had to buy everything that he ever has in stock. To get gold in War Room, you just have to beat every War Room map. Ranks don't matter. To get gold in Campaign, I've seen conflicting details on this. Some say that you have to just beat every mission, including the secret ones, so get 100%, and others say that you have to beat Hard Campaign. For Versus, you need to finish a game on every Versus map. So this is very time-consuming. But I don't know if yielding counts, it might actually count. So if you do that for all of them, it's slow, but you will gold that eventually. Online is the equivalent to Link mode in the original, and that one just automatically goes gold once everything else is gold. Design Room goes gold when you've bought all of the CO color edit options from Hachi. And that is all I wanted to show in Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. I knew I was going to go through this whole game once it came out, because I consider myself one of the biggest Advance Wars fans there is. I'm so glad this game existed, so many people got to relive their childhood, and a new generation got to play this game. I do think that, like, I do give these games, the Advance Wars ones, a lot of credit for Fire Emblem being what it is now. And with that, I will see you all next time, because I might be doing some more War Room in the future. But, for now, this is Big Clinky, company dismissed! Oh, and just wanted to show you my games ordered by playtime, okay? So, Reboot Camp has overtaken SMT5, Xenoblade 1, Smash Ultimate with all DLC, Final Fantasy 12, CTR Nitro Fueled, which was a live service game for a while, and I wish it overtook Pokemon Shield in the end, but probably just barely. And I've played Three Houses more than Xenoblade 3 and 2. That should say something.